Hello, everyone. I'm Hector Del Castillo, and I am a longtime member of the PMI Silver Spring Chapter. I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's Fireside Chat. And it is my pleasure to have alongside with me tonight truly a great person and also a great friend of mine that I met very early on as I moved into the DC metro area. And I also joined the Silver Spring Chapter shortly after I arrived. And that is Rusty Richards. I'm going to be introducing him a little bit more, but I just wanted to at least let you know tonight's discussion is all going to be about him sharing his insights and his experience in running the chapter when he was president and kind of sharing some of the things that he saw, some of the challenges, and hopefully this will be food for thought for everyone. And then we're going to have an audience Q&A. We're going to be asking you to submit your questions for Rusty. Ask him anything you want regarding his experience and everything that he's going to be discussing, and also just kind of have that exchange, if at all possible, using the Q&A window and the chat, and we're monitoring both, so just feel free to do that. And then during the audience Q&A, I'll be asking you if you want to open up your mic and maybe ask your question via the audio. You may do so at that time. But the first 20 minutes or so will be just an introduction. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm really excited to introduce to you Rusty Richards. And Rusty is a Ph.D. and also PMP-certified professional. He has experience in the fields of information technology and healthcare reform, emergency management, and cross-cultural communication. In his most recent position, prior to his retirement in 2021, he steered efforts to establish a comprehensive software asset management program at the U.S. Census Bureau, and then managed initial stages of the Bureau's deployment of the Continuous Diagnostics and Mitigation program, whose goals are to enhance the cybersecurity posture of the U.S. government networks and systems. Rusty served as president of the PMI Silver Spring Chapter until December 2011. He'll be sharing more with us, but during his successive terms of service, he actually grew the chapter from 180 members, that was on a good day, to over 600 by the time he left in 2011. And he's going to be sharing with us exactly how he arrived, how he joined the chapter, why he decided to become president, and his challenges in trying to get more engagement and actually grow the number of members. And he's going to be sharing that, and hopefully will be a great discussion for all of us to learn a little bit more. And as we get started, one of the things that I wanted to do is actually allow Rusty to tell us. Can you introduce yourself, please, Rusty? Welcome.
Sure, I appreciate it. First of all, let me know if you have a problem hearing me, okay? I know Hector is loud and clear, but I cannot hear myself beyond what I can hear here in the room. But hopefully I'm clear as he is.
Yeah, if you can maybe up the sensitivity on your mic a little bit more, because I think I'm hearing you kind of faint.
That's my question. That's my question. How do I do that?
You're fine. Right now you're fine. So maybe I think it's where you have the mic or where you're sitting, because I think it's very sensitive.
Right. Okay. I have no idea where on this computer the mic
You're fine.
lies.
You're fine. I think right now if you
Okay.
stay there where you're
We're
at,
good.
I can hear you.
Okay. I'll just stay where I am. Good, good. Well, so folks ask me from time to time, well, what is your PhD in? And well, I tell them it's in African linguistics from the University of Paris, from the Sorbonne. And their next question is, well, what in the world are you doing in project management? And I've often asked myself the same question. How in the world did I manage to go from there to where I am now, or where I've been in the last 20, 25 years or so? And what happened was I spent the first 20 some odd years of my career in various roles in a research and mission organization that had as its purpose the translation of languages that have not been written, translation of the scriptures into those languages. And I spent those years doing research in various languages of Cameroon, training people in France to do translation and so forth. And in 1998, left that role because of family concerns, children who had educational concerns, aging parents and such, and faced late in life, really, and I was at the time almost 50 years old, for the first time in my life, having to put together a resume. I'd never I'd never compiled a resume to say this is what I've done. And I remember the first job that I got, the hiring manager uh, looked at me and said, "Well, looking at this resume, I would never, if you were just coming off the street with this resume, I'd never hire you for this job." But he said, I trust the guy who's recommending you. His name actually is Guy. He's my next door neighbor who worked for this fellow. And he said, well, he trusted him and he was going to give it a shot. And of course, everyone knows late 90s, that was the really the peak of the dot-com bubble. And when you to get hired, basically you needed a pulse and the ability to stand up straight without assistance. And that's what happened. And I somehow survived and was placed in the role of Y2K systems integration test lead, knowing nothing about any of the systems, nor about what systems integration testing involved, but managed to find my way through that with the help of a lot of very talented folks. And I remember one fellow from MCI once saying to me, "Rusty, you're the best project manager I've ever worked with." I said nothing but thank you, wondering what in the world is a project manager. And from there, I started looking into, well, what does a project manager do? Is there a certification? I was on a short-term project in South Carolina at the time, and I found that there was a class, a PMP prep class that I attended. I registered, attended, and found out what project management is all about. Actually, I'd been doing it unbeknownst to me by instinct, but realizing I needed to build some rigor and process into the way I went about doing the work that I was doing. And from there, I became certified in 2003. And having joined PMI, I became aware, of course, that there were chapters, local chapters of the organization. Found the Silver Spring chapter. I had a choice between the DC chapter, Montgomery County chapter, and the Silver Spring chapter. I chose the Silver Spring chapter for reasons, who knows? But there I was. And the first meeting I went to was at a little restaurant up in Olney, Maryland, in a back room of a restaurant that held maybe 10, 15 people, if that. And that's where I met Bobby Blevins, the president of the chapter at the time. And we got to know each other. He was expressing some of the same concerns and frustrations that I think David Craig has experienced in terms of, well, the need for people to step up and volunteer and work with the chapter to help move things along, to get them to grow and to thrive. And I really, really appreciate, Hector, your choice of a title for this, as you describe it excellently, a fireside chat, building and growing a thriving PMI chapter, because I think that's absolutely essential to think in those terms, that it's not enough simply to go on your past accomplishments, but rather to consider how can you grow and thrive as a chapter. And part of that, you've already mentioned it, Hector, is meeting the needs of the constituent membership of the chapter. What are those needs? And that's a question that one of the things you want to find out, and I really appreciate that.
And one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, when you first started and you joined the chapter, you were still were you PMP certified at the time, or were you still working on your PMP certification?
No, at that time I was PMP certified, as I recall. But you're talking about 20 years ago, and I am of a certain age and wondering, well, what actually happened, trying to that would require an archaeological dig to determine exactly what came first. But was it about the same time, if not? It may have been that I started attending the chapter before I was actually certified. I can't 100% be sure, but there I was with my certification, aware, having attended the chapter meetings, that there was a need for help, and one of the areas that they where they needed help was in building a website. They had no website. I knew a few things about web development. As you can imagine, it was things that I'd learned off the cuff in the midst on the job training and such. But I wouldn't have considered myself a web developer, but I knew enough to be dangerous. And so uh, Bobby Blevins, the president at the time, gave me the keys to the kingdom and said, "Go at it." And I did. And that was interesting. He didn't place a lot of constraints on me. He didn't control everything that I did. He placed a lot of trust in me. Not that it was warranted, but he did. And the result is that before too long, we had a functioning website. It was not hosted as it currently is by an organization whose bread and butter is the hosting and developing of websites, which is what is now the case with the PMI Silver Spring Chapter website. But I was given the vaunted title of Vice President of Communication and Technology. And so from there, I sent out on Bobby's behalf uh, notices to the membership about upcoming meetings and such. And so that's how it began. And I don't know at what point it was that Bobby confided in me that he was looking for a, uh, a way to step down from his role as president of the chapter. And he was looking for someone essentially to take the reins, not necessarily with the title of president, but someone who could keep the chapter moving along and functioning. The challenge at the time was that we did have a board, but I had never met a single one of the people on the board. They never attended the meetings, and and I didn't. I'm not sure that I even had their email addresses, and or if I did, they indicated that they were not really involved anymore. And essentially, I was on my own to a degree, with the exception of a few very, very helpful folks who stood up and uh, came alongside me to help me. One of them, George Lau, who was instrumental in finding a number of the venues where we ended up meeting. I remember one of the early ones was it was a motel over in College Park, where we met for a while, but I think that stopped once they had a fire. And so
Mm-hmm.
the result of that is that we had to look for another place. And may have been then that we moved to the Maywa restaurant in Friendship Heights, where restaurant I knew the owner of the restaurant, and he opened it up for us to be able to meet, and that served our needs for a time. And I think it was there that I I I launched the idea of. I didn't talk about a functioning board. I spoke of a Renaissance committee. I said, look, we need to get our chapter really functioning well with people who have skills and who have the desire to help and who are available to help. And so we called it the Renaissance Committee at the time.
Hmm.
And that lasted for a while until someone said, I think we really need to constitute ourselves officially as a board, and that's where it began, and by one means or another. And I think the growth, we were not focusing so much on growth at the time, so much as survival,
Hmm. That's
because
very interesting because you did end up growing quite a bit in the term. So can you walk us through? And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be asking the audience to respond to a poll because I want to get a sense as to the makeup of the audience for tonight. And the question is, how long have you been a PMI Silver Spring Chapter member? And pick one of the choices, and then we'll present that. But can you talk a little more about what you observed as you got involved, and now you at some point sort of like became an ad hoc president or leader?
it's a really good way to describe it. It was more ad hoc than official until such time that we actually began to hold elections in the in the in the chapter,
Hmm.
and where I was officially elected as president, and others were elected to various board roles. Right.
So in essence, your role started, you sort of became an accidental project manager, and then upon joining the PMI local chapter, then you also became an accidental leader and then president.
Everything was accidental from beginning to end. Absolutely. No, it
Very,
really
very.
was. And 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 I think for anyone who has volunteered, uh, the key to uh, building commitment is giving people latitude in the roles that they have been asked to fill or that they have volunteered to fill, giving them latitude rather than controlling their every movement. Because as a volunteer, you're not paid for you're not being paid for your work, but you need to feel that you can make it your own. And I think that's what essentially the reason why I kept going for as long as I did. I think officially as president, I may have been 5 years officially as president, and prior to that, maybe 4 years in various uh, roles, appointed and otherwise. Uh, and that's arithmetic that I cannot vouch for, except that I think that's more or less where it was. But what was a key one key to encouraging people to come to our meetings was getting great speakers. That wasn't all thanks to me, but it was a team effort, all sorts of people coming up with suggestions. We had the CIO of GSA speak at one time. We had a round the Beltway tour of there was Melinda Peters, who was the project manager of the ICC, who spoke. There was General Furman, who was previously head of Army Corps of Engineers, who was the project manager for the Wilson Bridge. There was, I don't recall his name, but the gentleman who was managing the Silver Spring, the Springfield interchange, redesign and development. All of that, these major, huge construction projects that you don't always hear about within the context of the of PMI. Oftentimes, it's focusing on software development and such. But this was a refreshing change in many ways. Having don't remember who it was, a gentleman who was with I believe the EPA, who was a high level uh, appointee at the EPA who came to speak, whom I
Hmm.
had met at some function. And so that led, I think, to a sense that we're going to have a great time when we come to this meeting. I don't want to miss out. That's
Mhm.
one part of it in terms of just showing up. But
Yep.
then on the side of volunteering, uh, the idea of giving people latitude to make the work their own rather than trying to control what they did. I didn't necessarily do the best job of that. Didn't necessarily do the best job of that, but that to me was right at the heart of it. One example was inviting Carl Pritchard to post articles on the Silver Spring Chapter website. I said, Carl, uh, here, you can post whatever you want. That's up to you. And here's the access to be able to do it. And from there, he one of the first articles that he wrote
Mhm.
focused on the whole nature of volunteering. And if I could, let me just read very briefly what he wrote.
Sure. And let me just say I'm sharing the poll results, and it shows very clearly that the majority, over 50% of the audience tonight, has been a member of the chapter 1 to 4 years or less than a year. And there's a few that have been members for longer than 5 years, all the way to 15 plus years. So I just wanted to give you a breakdown right now. The majority of the audience are the members that probably weren't around when you were president, and before you
Oh, right.
actually long left as president, and they've encountered since other presidents that kind of followed your lead of what you started.
Right,
Let
right.
me let me so I'll ask you to share that, and then we can get into the next discussion as well, because I do want to make sure that we touch on some other aspects. So go ahead.
Right. So I'll be very brief. I'll try to read quickly. Uh, Carl wrote, and the title of his article is Your Volunteer is Here, and he has latitude, and he spelled it L apostrophe ATTITUDE. And what he wrote was, I'm currently serving with 3 different committees or groups as a volunteer. I'm having 3 very different experiences. In one, I'm perceived as an indentured servant. I signed up and they believe that they have me through the end of 2008. This was back in 2007. He said, I made a commitment, and frankly, they're right. I'll stick it out. In another group, nothing is ever asked of me, and no action is taken on my part. And yet, a third, Silver Spring Chapter of PMI, I've been asked to shape the work that I do in this little corner of their website, which we call Carl's Corner, and make it my own. I get to do what I want. And he writes, Yeehaw! He says, which of these 3 currently has my imagination whirring? Which of these is truly energizing and helping me broaden myself professionally? A local chapter, speaking about Silver Spring Chapter, wins hands down. Why? They granted me latitude, which has significantly improved my attitude about whether or not volunteering is a good idea. And Rusty Richards asked if I was game to do this. I was actually enthused. Why? Because I get to make this the way I want in my own structure and approach. I'm doing it my way. There's more, but I'll stop there. But I thought that was significant, so important in terms of working with volunteers to give them the latitude, make it their own, to
Mhm.
invest themselves in the effort so that they feel that they're making an impact.
Yes. So now I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask the audience to also respond to a second poll question, and I'm going to launch it right now. And the question is, why did you join? Those of you that have been here for 5 years or less, why did you join? And, I went through and looked at the website and the benefits of joining as a member. And these are all listed on the website, right? Networking opportunities, and pick any combination of these that appealed to you the most, because it's multiple choice. Is it because you're looking for to become PMP certified or get another certification from PMI and you're looking for support? Is it because you're looking for more professional development opportunities, specifically in project and program management? Are you looking for career opportunities? Are you engaged in the newer book club that's been launched? Are you interested in doing community outreach? Or is it other? And if you choose other, I'm going to ask you to share what that other is via the chat. Because unfortunately, there was no fill in the blank in these polls here in Zoom. But if you choose other, please share what the other means to you. And so you mentioned, going back to you while we wait for the response from the audience and share it with everyone. I wanted to kind of go through, you mentioned one of the biggest things was bringing a thought leader that was eager to share his knowledge on the website, and that he started posting all sorts of different information. Were you tracking the viewers of that particular section, the Carl's Corner section, at all?
At the time, we did not have the means to do that.
There's no analytics, but you were you getting comments from members saying, "Hey, this is a great thing. We love it. We need more."
Again, memory fades. All I know is that people appreciated it and did mention from time to time, anecdotally, such as at meetings, that they appreciated what he was sharing. And frankly, the website is a great forum for being able to build content and for people to be able to improve their to strengthen their own professional development through that content. And so that was a service that Carl was providing, free of charge, by the way. And I at one eventually the board decided that, well, no, we don't want this for whatever reasons. They moved in a different direction, which was a choice that was made. But at the same time, I felt personally that this was an important addition to this what we were providing to the membership in terms of their development.
So I was wondering if there was one thing that you made conscious, maybe once you had a more formal group. I wasn't really sure if you were able to get kind of like a brainstorming session as to what would be the one thing that you could do with the people that were involved already as you were president, that you were consciously looking to grow the chapter and kind of attract more members. Was it any one of these things that we're talking about? Is it more support for people who want to get certified? Was it about more networking opportunities and allowing members to connect and meet each other during meetings and other things? Was there any of these things that are a part of the poll that you recall would be like your sort of like the one thing that, if you had to look back, worked best at actually getting more people joining and more members becoming engaged with activities?
Although I can't give empirical data to prove it, but I would wager that the PMP prep courses that we launched, that we hosted, went a long way to engage people's interest in the chapter. What happened was that we who was it with? I can't recall which organization, but we developed our own PMP prep materials and provided them in a course that we hosted at a venue, and that drew a great many people in on subsequent Saturdays and such, and became aware of the existence of our chapter as a result. And I would wager that a number of them ended up joining and participating as a result.
Interesting. What about anything that has to do with people looking for their next role? People that were looking for career opportunities?
Oh, absolutely. No, at every meeting, we made a point of giving people the opportunity to share. Did they have positions available? Did they have needs? Were they looking for uh, a new move in their career? And it was extremely effective. People did make connections, and that's absolutely key.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, personally, I on more than one occasion in moving from one job to the next, one position to the next, that came about directly as a result of connections I was able to make there at those meetings.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share the results, and I just want to give a few more seconds for anyone who hasn't responded to respond, and then we will share the results. And I wanted to kind of to have a further discussion and begin the audience Q&A specifically about these particular themes that we're talking about, what you're looking for that would enhance your experience as a member of the Silver Spring chapter. So I'm going to be giving you 5 more seconds, and then we'll close and then share. All right, I'm closing it now and share the results. So voila, the top one out of all 7 choices, including other, 73% of you are looking for more networking opportunities, the opportunity to meet and greet and connect with other members just to find out if there's anything of value, common values, common interest, networking opportunities. And then number 2, a close 60%, professional development opportunities. And in that respect, 47% of you is number 3 is career opportunities. So to begin the audience Q&A, I want to focus on these top 3. And I want to ask the audience to chime in via the chat from a scale from 1 to 5. For those of you who have attended chapter activities, it doesn't matter whether they're online or in-person meetings or any other activity that you've been participating, whether it's a symposium or anything else, rate the networking opportunities on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being we're doing great, right? The chapter has done outstanding job at allowing you to get what you need from networking with members. So just put in, we are asking each of you to chime in via the chat, a number between 1 and 5, just based on your experience of the networking opportunities that you have enjoyed so far. How happy, how satisfied are you with the networking that you've done when you've attended events, whether online or in person, chapter events that you've attended? So go ahead and share that via the chat, and then we can informally, and you mentioned something, we're waiting for people to respond. You mentioned that you were doing something at the beginning. Was it at the beginning of every meeting that you were doing this, Rusty? What were you doing to encourage more networking?
Well, certainly we had a period of time that people engaged prior to the formal start of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we did toward the end of the time that I was president was to have what we called the early show, all right, which was a short presentation and on something similar to what DC chapter does with they have an early gathering of focusing on usually skills focus on presentation prior to their main meeting. But that we called it the early show, and took it. It was far more informal and involved a lot of interaction, and so that helped. And also during the meeting as well, we did encourage people to engage and interact. And as everyone, I think, on this virtual meeting can attest, an in-person meeting goes a long way to encouraging that kind of interaction. It's a challenge. It's a challenge in a virtual setting. Not impossible, but it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why one of the reasons I feel that meeting in person on a consistent basis is something from which the chapter can derive a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm. No, this is great. I was looking at the responses of from a scale from 1 to 5, how the members are feeling about networking opportunities to activities where they have attended so far. And I think just totally unscientific, it looks like it's somewhere around 3, maybe 3.5, based on responses. So I want to ask those of you that rated networking opportunities at a level 2 or 3. Type in the chat or via the Q&A window if you can. What would take it to a level 5? What would you like to see as far as networking opportunities at chapter events that would say, I'm really happy with the networking that I'm doing and all the people I'm meeting? Chime in, because we'd like to collect that feedback and we can discuss a little bit more about that as well. So if you haven't done already so, let us know. There's one person saying that, because of COVID, they really would like to see more in-person networking. And of course, that's something that I think we were all kind of like completely in shock in 2020 when this all started. And seamlessly, I saw many organizations try to figure out how to survive. And the ones that didn't make that seamless transition from being in person to going online and doing, using tools like Teams and Zoom and other things, kind of missed out, because they struggled mightily in trying to keep up in the real core of what their members wanted was, how do we meet? Because we're all, are at home feeling isolated. And even though we may be working, we just don't interact the same way that we used to when we were in person, either at work or attending in-person meetings before. We took them for granted, and now all of a sudden we couldn't meet in person anymore. My question to you, if you had a choice of attending meetings in person versus, let's say you had a choice, you could attend them because they're hybrid, online and also in person, and there will be activities for both audiences, the online audience at the same time that the engaging conversations with everybody that's in person. Would that change anything as far as your ability to network online, knowing what you're doing right now at work, and also with some of your social events that you're doing with family and friends? I'm sure there's been a component where you're actually continuing to socialize and still spend time with people online as well, using video conferencing tools, platforms. So that would be my question to you. And I don't know if there's anybody on that has typed in any questions, but if you have any questions, this is the audience Q&A. So feel free to chime in via the audio, ask your question. I'll be also monitoring the Q&A window to see if anybody has submitted any questions. But I think I'm seeing a lot of the activity on the chat, and there's at least one person saying, Tony, thank you for verifying, saying hybrid or online networkings are and as well as in person, I think would be a great alternative to continuing to network, as long as there's a portion where you can actually network and meet with people. Let's move on to the next topic, because number 2, and this is at 60% of responses. So networking was 73%. the professional development opportunities was 60% of the audience. That's what they're looking for. So, and I think you alluded to this earlier. One of the things that you did very early on in trying to consciously get more people engaged when you were president, Rusty, was to really work hard at bringing great speakers that had great topics to speak about that were all relevant to project managers. Can you share some of those things that you shared earlier?
Well, yes, and as I was mentioning, we at one point we had a theme around the Beltway theme, and this allowed us to market the speakers in a very special way that drew a level of interest that went beyond the individual speakers to see the entire region, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan region, as an area where some very interesting things were taking place from the standpoint of physical management of projects where they were building things. Now, we had another event with Freeman Hrabowski, the president of UMBC at the time. He's since retired, but he's a man of national importance in the field of education, and built UMBC into a powerhouse of a university. And we were able to bring him in as a speaker. Had Carl Pritchard, in fact, as a lead up speaker to his presentation, to Freeman's presentation. The result of, and that went out. That was a communication that went out not just to our chapter, but to the DC chapter, to the Baltimore chapter, Montgomery, and they worked together with us to market and to communicate to their members this event. The result of it, but the Silver Spring chapter was the host of this entire evening, and it gave our chapter a real sense of credibility, of value, of impact in the larger project management community. And so those are some of the examples of people that we brought in, and it was I felt key that we recognize these individuals. I remember we gave them a gift of a book, of a chosen book that I chose. It was my prerogative to choose the book, and I would present that as a gift to the speakers, and I think they appreciated that and probably brought them back, those that we invited back.
Mm-hmm. No, this is actually really, really great ideas. I remember actually when the few times that I spoke when you were president, I did get a book at the end, and I remember that, and I'm going like, wow, this is really cool. And, I appreciated that. So, that's a great touch point. And I think something that probably would work even in today's world. And of course, some of the speakers that are authors are more than happy to be like not only giving out books to the people that attend their talks, but they're also, and I've been to these type of meetings where they're also personally signing and autographing the book for anyone who's interested in doing that. And I think that also is part of getting that engagement as well between the speaker and the members as well. But I also wanted to make sure that in the chat, I typed in a question for the audience to chime in. And I'm asking those of you that are looking for more or different professional development opportunities within the chapter to rate how we're doing on a scale from 1 to 5. 5 being we're doing really good at the type of professional development opportunities and the type of topics that you're seeing at chapter activities, whether they're in-person or online meetings or symposium. Just let us know, rate us from a scale from 1 to 5. And if you rate us 2 or 3, we're asking you, what would you like to see different as far as professional development activities? And I do want to share something that I saw on the chat from one member, and that is they would like to see more diversity in topics and in the speakers themselves at the chapter meetings. And that's something that one of the things that I noticed, and I wasn't really sure if anybody else wants to chime in either via the audio, via audience. Maybe Rusty, you can share some of the things that you did to identify speakers when you were president as well.
Well, before that, I'd like to ask Derek to unmute yourself for a second. And I just noticed my vision is not the greatest. I have a hard time reading even with these glasses. But you said you thought town halls had more audience and engagement. So I'm going to engage the audience. Derek, can you unmute yourself and share your thoughts on that? All you two.
Are you there, Derek?
Derek, did we lose you? Maybe he's had to step away momentarily. But Hector, the question again was, how did we go about identifying speakers? Oh my goodness, that's such that's a tough one. One way was attending events outside of what we were doing, whether in the PMI regional meetings, for example, where we would meet people, or in completely in venues that were totally unrelated to PMI, where we would meet people and invite them to speak, and that's and then looking around, wondering, well, who's in charge of doing this? And that's how that came about, the Round the Beltway tour, wondering who's in charge of the ICC, who's doing this Springfield interchange, who's in charge of. That was a challenge, finding who it was that was the person, General Furman, and how to reach out to him and how to locate him. It was a downright digging process, well in advance of the meetings, of the scheduled meetings that we had to, and it was a team effort. Because different people know different people. It was someone within the chapter who knew the CIO at GSA, someone who knew Melinda Peters, who was managing the ICC, who was able to reach out to those people and invite them. Mm-hmm. So it was a matter of reaching out to the membership and say, look, we need your help. We'd like to know who you would like to see. Do you know anyone who knows someone perhaps who could be invited to speak? So that's, in other words, the last thing you want is for one person to be a single point of failure. You want to spread that wealth out to the assembled membership, so they feel they have something to contribute as well.
Okay. Yeah. So far, I've seen one response as far as like the rating of on a scale from 1 to 5 regarding professional development opportunities, and it's at a level 4. But I would like to get more people responding. And if you either can respond via the chat to this particular question, I just reshared it via the chat. But if you are, whatever it is, if you want to contribute via the chat, or if you want to actually open up your mic and let us know how you would rate professional development activities of the Silver Spring chapter and the activities that you have attended, will be great, because we'd like to get at least that interaction, and also ask if any of you that want to ask a question as well, maybe make a suggestion. I would like to get your feedback as to how we can improve professional development opportunities within the chapter.
And as a personal request, if I could ask folks if they could, I'd love to hear some of your voices.
Yes.
So please, if you could jump in and unmute and speak up, and at least just say, hello, I'm here. So
yes.
That would be wonderful.
There's some, Andrea, I think you mentioned that it is your first event. Hey, welcome, and thank you for joining. So I'm kind of curious, what compelled you to join this particular event, and that you haven't been able to attend other activities like monthly meetings, book club sessions, any of those things? Can you please share? If you can share, open up your mic and share some of your maybe you're having scheduling constraints or something.
Sure, no. So this is my first event that I've attended because I recently joined the PMI, like just in general. So I was looking for local chapters and I joined Silver Springs chapter and then I joined the Washington DC chapter. So this is the like my first, event that I'm going to as part of the Silver Springs chapter. So um I've been doing project management for several years, but I recently joined the PMI as part of the MBA program and I was looking to network and, meet local professionals. So I'm definitely excited to be here for sure.
Great, great. Welcome, and thank you for attending. And let us know how we can improve your experience as a new member. We want to make sure that we collect that feedback so that we can actually start working on figuring out ways that we can build teams so that we can actually start really focusing on really delivering a superior member experience for everyone, no matter what of these activities you're looking for. So thank you for joining. Hey, Derek, you're back. Can
You're
you open
back,
up
Jared.
your
We want to hear from you.
mic, because Rusty was asking you to interact.
I'm sorry. I'm literally on two conference calls. I'm running a youth politics and educational thing on the left, and I'm with you guys here. I'm my two big passions. Yeah. Hector, thank you for putting this together, and we appreciate your wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much. I am one of these new individuals to PMP, to the whole PMP process, but I'm no stranger at all to associations, organizations, and chapters. I've done them all, from scuba diving to educational to other licenses. I've seen them all. I really, it does seem like there is a crisis of purpose of chapters. And right now we live in a society where there are more distractions to volunteer, to entertain us, to excel professionally in everything that we need to do in order to excel. That it is very difficult for chapters to exist without a North Star vision. And I'm frankly shocked. Hector tried to put a bunch of good things in that poll. PDU is not number one on there. And the idea that leaderships don't understand that I'm telling you now, your purpose is to deliver PDUs to your membership. That's why we joined. That's why we're all here. That is in all 50 states. That's in every chapter around the world. That is your purpose. And I'm glad that it seemed like a lot of people agreed with that in the chat. And I think that needs to be the North Star moving forward. People need accessible PDUs. They need to be available in formats that doesn't mean that it's free hanging fruit that just gets handed out. But my main question that I'll just pose really quickly as we close out here is, what did you see how did you get people vested in the chapter? I joined my chapter because I needed 60 PDUs and a meeting gets me 1.5. Okay. I also want to excel and be the best project manager I possibly can be. And the best way to do anything is to be hands-on with it, learn it, participate in it. As an added benefit, I'm also doing my self-serving of getting access to those PDUs. Mm-hmm. But what did you find is the driving thing for volunteers? Because I can tell you right now, people don't have time to read books. Yes, it gets you a PDU. That's fantastic. The medium is now all visual anyways now. I mean, I have my list of books that I reference on occasion. I'm not going to lie, I do peek in every once in a while. But what did you see drove people to be volunteers? How did you keep them vested? And how did you really drive home that the purpose is we're here to serve your professional security of your license by earning you PDUs?
Right. No, you're absolutely right, Derek. Those are some excellent comments. I don't know if I can answer them as eloquently as you express them, but you're absolutely right. And the whole question of the North Star purpose of the chapter needs to be front and center from the very beginning, and needs to be delivered in a way that is that meets the needs of the membership. Now, one of the things I think that drew me to Silver Spring was one thing you mentioned: 1.5 PDUs. That was a delight. Rather than and in fact, in one of the board meetings, there was discussion. I don't know. I think we ought to scale it back to one. And I said, not on my watch, and because that was an attraction. That was clearly an attraction. But at the same time, in terms of getting people to come, you're talking about vesting and membership. That's you want to make it a really enjoyable event from beginning to end. I mean, I saw that, I've never met a Mike I didn't like, and so that was my blessing and their curse. I guess that I enjoyed getting up and moderating these meetings, and so that was me. But perhaps that played a role. People wanted to see what kind of a fool Rusty was going to make of himself this time. I don't know, but in any case, we have great speakers, as I said, and opportunity and great food. That to me was absolutely essential. If we're going to pay money this was before the time of virtual events. If we're going to pay money to attend an event that has food, it better be good food. And so it was. It was very, very well done. And then follow up, communication. Constant communication, not barraging people, but encouraging them to so they have clear in their mind when the next meeting is, who the speaker is, why the speaker is of value, and also the website that we made that in a sense an archive of everything that had happened before, so that anyone going to the website at the time when I was running the chapter could see, well, who has been speaking over the last 5 years, for example. It was all there. All the information was easily accessible. And I think that gave a certain sense of, well, they could see that there is momentum with this chapter. We want to take part in it. I don't know if that gives a sense to you of response to some of the questions or the comments that you made, Derek. I don't know, but
it does. Yeah. It does. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And actually, I do want to add something to Rusty's points, and that is PMI does have guidelines that volunteers that are assisting or part of the organizing committee, so to speak, of any activity.
Oh, right.
Chapter meetings, symposium, conferences, summits, master classes, anything the chapter does, the officers of the chapters do have criteria that they can assign so many hours of volunteering for organizing people that help volunteers that organize, that are members, to earn PDUs as part of their volunteering.
Oh, so, right. You're absolutely right. If you think back to these courses that we put on, these were members of the chapter who taught courses. The result of that is that they garnered a great many PDUs in the process.
Yes.
And that was a real incentive for them.
Yes, but also when you're organizing, part of the organizing, you don't have to be a speaker. You can be a facilitator, a moderator, or be behind the scenes, just making sure everything is set up and organized. That activities are being coordinated on the back end. When you're part of a production and you're volunteering for that, and it's a chapter activity, the chapter has the option of assigning so many PDUs to those volunteers that help out in whatever project or task or event you're putting together. So these are all things that I think would be great feedback for the board, because if as a new member you don't know about that, yes, you can volunteer, and by volunteering, it's a different way that you can earn PDUs for volunteering to serve others in the chapter. It's like, to me, it's like the best way you can network and meet new people, because you're meeting other volunteers who are also members that you may not know otherwise. You're getting PDUs, and then you're also meeting great people when you're inviting people from the outside who are speakers or facilitators or moderators who are actually delivering whatever it is that you're part of managing as a volunteer. It's a great way. It's a great benefit of volunteering that you can do all of those things and just volunteering with something that you want to do. And so if you're looking for more networking opportunities, volunteer to run networking sessions in a portion of the meeting, or invite speakers, or coordinate a book signing when somebody has a book that they want to offer signatures, and you want people to kind of in an orderly fashion line up so they can grab their book and meet the speaker and sign. All those things are parts that you need volunteers. They don't have to be officers. Volunteers can be anyone, and that is part of activating and engaging the members, is to realize that volunteering has its benefits as well.
Oh, absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, when I first started out with the chapter, after Bobby Blevins, the president of the time, left, and the question was, well, what do we do now? And he had handed the reins over to me without being officially in the position of president. We informally created what I dubbed the Renaissance Committee, and it was whoever is available. I always look at three aspects when it comes to volunteering. One is, are you available? Are you willing? Are you able? Right? And the question is, able for what? Well, that depends. It could be anything. And it's a question of identifying those areas of need and finding out who is interested in those areas. Might be someone who doesn't have a full skill set to do that, but if they're interested, they can build that skill set. Happened with me. But the two key are availability and willingness. And ability is important as well, but it's not always a deal breaker. And the question of availability, it's not always a question of 24/7. It's a question, to what degree are you available? Well, that's important as well to know. And mapping that against a volunteer force is going to go a long way to meeting the needs of the chapter itself. And by the way, before I forget, I'm sure, Hector, you'll put it in the follow-up emails, but I'd be delighted to interact with anyone offline after this. And my email is real easy. It's rusty.richards@gmail.
If you can share it via the chat, would be great, Rusty. And thank you so much. Thanks so much for a great discussion. I want to thank all of you, audience, for being involved and staying engaged. If you have any questions that you want us to answer, submit them via the chat. My suggestion to you, before you leave the session, save the chat, because if you want to get Rusty's contact information, or kind of recall today's discussion, save the chat before we close tonight's session. And we will be sharing a link where you can view the entire recording for today, review that with everyone that signed up. And also, I believe that Danielle is going to be providing information on how to get and collect your PDU for tonight. And that'll be power skills, because talking about volunteer opportunities and the things that you want to do, things that we can do to help engage members, but also get them to get to a higher level of experience. That is all a part of what we're looking to do right now. And it's all about leadership skills, enabling leaders, empowering others that want to step up and serve others. We realize it's not going to be all of you, but those of you who feel compelled because of different reasons, you believe in serving others, you want to get more PDUs, you can do it for your own reasons. And all of this will actually give you more PDUs. And we'd like to learn how we can start as soon as the new board comes up next year. What are the things that we can do and start implementing some changes in the way that activities are being run in order to get more of you involved as volunteers? Because the reality is, as the chapter has gone from a few hundred, 600 in 2011 when Rusty left, to now we're over 1,300 members. We more than doubled in that period of time the number of members, and we would like to get many of you. We need you to get more involved, to deliver all of these things that we want to be able to deliver, and we need volunteers that can help us in delivering any of these things that we discussed today. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you and thank Rusty once again. And Rusty, did you share your contact information via the chat?
I did. Did it come through to everyone?
I just want to make sure, because I'm not monitoring the chat. I just want to make sure. So make sure you save the chat, everybody, and let us know if there's anything else. You can also contact me directly. I'll be sharing my contact information as well. And we're going to have a follow-up in October. I believe this one is going to be on a Thursday evening, because now we're going to have 3 special guests, all past presidents of the chapter, talk about their experiences. And we really would like to get more audience participation as well in this one. And for that, we're actually, I'm going to be requesting 90 minutes, because we're going to have 3 panelists. They all want to share their stories, but we also want to have engagement from the audience. That'll be coming up October 19th, same time, same channel, 7 p.m. We're going to be sending information via the communications of the chapter. It's free. And if I can bend Dave Craig's arm, it'll be 1.5 PDUs of power skills for this one, because it'll be longer. Obviously, more speakers. We need a little bit more time. We want more engagement. And what I'm going to recommend is that we actually make that 90 minutes and get your 1.5 PDU of power skills in October, and absolutely free. We want to be able to learn what you really want, what you need in order for us, the chapter, to deliver superior member experience compared to anybody else that is out there. So with that, I want to thank you all. And once again, I'll be sharing my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me, and we'll be sending out information. And let us know if there's anything else that we would need to include in the next discussion, because we're open to feedback. We're more than welcome to provide that feedback either here via the chat, or connect with me on LinkedIn, or email me. And I'm sharing my LinkedIn contact information, the short link to my profile, and also my email. And you can feel free to reach out via both and give me your suggestions and feedback, because we're looking to improve, and we're looking to really find out how is it that we can deliver much better member experience in 2024 as soon as the new board starts. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your week. We'll see you back again a month from now. Take care.